A couple of quick announcements before we start class. Next Thursday will be our last class, and we will do the final examination next Thursday. It'll be the same format as the midterm examination, where you can prepare some questions and we will review what we've learned so far in class. If you are on YouTube and you want to ask some questions, please leave the question behind in the comment section, and my wife will go over and select some questions for us to do next Thursday. Next Tuesday, we will do an overview of everything we've learned so far and make certain predictions about the next 5 to 10 years, okay? So next week will be our last week. Today, I want to talk about Putin in Beijing. So he came to Beijing Tuesday evening. He had a full day yesterday, and then he left last night. And as you can see, President Putin and President Xi are very good friends. They went to a conference hall where they unveiled a photo of the two being very close. This is President Putin's 25th visit to China. And in November, he's coming back to Shenzhen to attend APEC, and that'll be his 26th. He's a very good friend of China's, and the two are very close. This is the two of them at an education conference announcing a year of education exchange between Russia and China. And the goal is to enhance people-to-people connections between China and Russia. The major output of the meeting was their different perspectives on the multipolar world, okay? So this is a part of President Xi's speech, and this is a part of President Putin's speech. And this is actually AI translation, so the translation is very bad. But I will point out certain things, okay? So both are committed to a multipolar world. And what President Xi and President Putin both want are more exchanges, okay? Bilateral student exchanges, deepen interactions in universities, do more research together. He also is afraid of the turbulence in the world, and he's very much afraid of a return to the law of the jungle where might is right. So it's very important for the world to work together in order to maintain the rules-based international order. And what President Xi says is that as permanent members of the UN Security Council, China and Russia will work together to uphold the authority of the UN international justice and oppose all manifestations of unilateralism and hegemony, resurrecting signs of fascism and militarism, okay? And this specifically refers to Germany and Japan, okay? So he sees the possibility of nationalism, a resurgence of nationalism in Japan, as a threat to the peace in East Asia and to the world in general. Okay, so China is most resolutely opposed to the remilitarization of Japan. Putin says the same things almost, but the tone is very different, okay? So, first of all, Putin is actually more specific than President Xi about areas of cooperation, okay? So for example, the 10th Russia-China Summer Games, and also cooperation between different media outlets. And he also talks about how it's important to maintain independent, autonomous foreign policies, at the same time work together to stabilize the global stage. Working together for peace and universal prosperity. This is the logic behind Moscow and Beijing's joint defense of international law and the provisions of the UN Charter in their entirety, comprehensive and interrelationship, okay? So it sounds like they're saying the same thing, but again, the emphasis is different. Whereas in China, China's very much focused on maintaining the status quo, a rules-based international order, putting the UN at the very top, and for the UN, China and Russia will work towards ensuring global stability. For President Putin, what's important is that China and Russia take the lead in leading the multipolar world. Okay, so these are two very different conceptions of how the world should be run. Where the Chinese system is, let's just maintain the way things are and we'll play a supportive role. Whereas Putin is like, no, Russia and China should be the leaders of this new multipolar world. China can be the leader and will be a junior partner, but we need to take the initiative in promoting global stability. Okay? This is much more clearer, okay? Where this is actually a joint statement between Russia and China, where they advocate a multipolar world. And Russia and China undertake and call on the international community to adhere to the following basic principles in their relations with one another. Number one, maintaining open trade, okay? Maintaining sovereignty of different nations. Maintaining decision-making through consensus, okay? Primarily the United Nations. Maintaining authority of the UN. And respecting the civilizations of each different nation state. So refusing to prioritize one civilization over another. All right, so this is something that both Russia and China agree to. Now, this is actually a much better translation of President Xi's words about the multipolar world, okay? So let's read it together. The world today is far from tranquil. Unilateralism and hegemonism are doing grave harm, and the world faces the danger of sliding back to the law of the jungle. As permanent members of the UN Security Council, China and Russia must firmly carry out the mission and responsibility of major countries, defend the authority of their nations, international fairness and justice, oppose all unilateral bullying and acts that turn the wheel of history backward, and especially oppose all provocations that negate the victorious outcomes of World War II or that seek to reverse the verdict on and summon back the spirits of fascism and militarism, jointly pushing for the building of a more just and reasonable global governance system, okay? All right, so this is a lot of words, but I will emphasize certain takeaways. First of all, what President Xi is saying is that there were three major winners of World War II. The United States, Russia, and China. And we must ensure that these three nations who won World War II are still in charge, okay? Okay, this is really important to understand. First of all, US, Russia, and China are allies, not enemies, right? Because right now a lot of people think that China and the United States are in competition to rule the world, and President Xi says, no, that's not true. We're allies because we won World War II together, all right? Second, he sees the real enemies as those who are trying to overturn the World War II order. And those nations, of course, are Japan, Germany, and Israel. And the last thing he will point out is that all unilateralism and hegemonism are bad. Okay? If you act by yourself and you declare war against other nations, that's bad. So obviously, the United States attacking Venezuela is bad. Obviously, the United States attacking Iran is bad. But what about Russia attacking Ukraine? Well, according to this framework, this is also bad. Okay? According to this logic of what he said specifically, this is also bad. So it seems as though China and Russia are best friends and they will unify against the United States together. But this statement reveals that actually things aren't as simple as they seem. All right? Also, what's important for us to understand is that yes, there are many areas where China and Russia can work together, but the cooperation is not going as smoothly as one would imagine, okay? So let's look at some examples. First of all, the economic cooperation between China and the United States, it is booming. What's happening is that China needs a lot of energy and resources from Russia. So you would think that they would build the infrastructure as soon as possible to make this trade as smooth as possible, right? Especially with this war going on in the Middle East, blocking China's access to the Middle East energy. But, and the main pillar of this cooperation is something called the Power Side Barrier 2, okay? As you can see, it extends all the way from the north of Russia to Shanghai. It's a huge project. And everyone has assumed that at this meeting, the first thing that they would accomplish is signing an MOU, an agreement, to build this pipeline. And they have not done so. And a lot of it is because China does not want to become too dependent on Russia. Because obviously if you build this pipeline, then you must buy a lot of energy from Russia. But they want to still negotiate over the price as well as the volume, okay? So that's one area. Second area is Iran. As you can see, the Russians are absolutely supportive of the Iranians, right? So what Vladimir Putin says is this absolute unprovoked aggression of US bombing against Iran has no basis and no justification whatsoever. For our part, we are making our efforts to assist the Iranian people. Okay, this was last June actually, when America bombed Iran. The Chinese, on the other hand, are much more nuanced and much more diplomatic. So President Xi says, Israel's military operation against Iran has caused a sudden escalation of tensions in the Middle East. Military conflicts are not the solution of problems, okay? So the Chinese are much more muted. And this shows us that whereas the Russians are much more clear about their regional alliances, China does not want to participate in disputes among different nations, okay? All right, so one area of cooperation between Russia and China is trade routes, all right? So as we discussed previously in this class, what the Americans want to do is they want to block China from accessing global trade. And they can do that by closing off the Strait of Malacca, okay? And there's something called the Malacca dilemma for China, where if the Americans were to close off the Strait of Malacca, Chinese trade would collapse. So the solution is for China to build another route to the north, called the Northern Sea Route of Russia, okay? But the problem with this is that now you're completely dependent on the Russians because you're going through Russian territory, okay? So it's not an advantage of China to say, you know what, screw you, America, we're gonna work with the Russians. They're actually better off balancing Russia and China. That way, they keep both of these routes open. Okay, this is the most economical, this is the most strategic way of accessing global trade. Okay, but the further you look, there are certain tension points in the relationship between Russia and China. First of all, this relationship clearly favors China, okay? So this is a map, a chart of Russian exports to China. And as you can see, it's mainly just energy, coal, LNG, crude oil, okay? That's the extent of Russia's exports to China. And what does China export to Russia? Mainly vehicles, electronics, and machinery, okay? So basically what China does is it takes Russian resources, converts them into manufactured goods, machinery, in its factories, and then exports it back to Russia. This is a very bad deal for Russia. It's a good deal for China, but it's a bad deal for Russia, okay? So that's one point of tension. Another point of tension is the dependence, okay? So basically, China and Russia may be best friends, but look at this, okay? So Russia's share in Chinese imports is only 5%. And then Russia's share in Chinese exports is only 3%. So economically, Russia and China are not that close. The problem, though, is that Russia is heavily dependent on its relationship with China because of all these economic sanctions imposed on it by the West, okay? So as you can see, what's happened after February 2022, when Putin invaded Ukraine and the West imposed sanctions on Russia, the relationship, the economic dependence on China has increased a lot, where in the beginning of the war, Russia didn't have that much in renminbi. But now, the renminbi accounts for over 40% of Russian imports, okay?